Mo and Ron, welcome back, you wonderful, wonderful buggers. It's a pleasure to be sat down again with you. I'm going to make an admission here to our listeners and viewers. This isn't the first time we've attempted this podcast, is it?
No.
This is where the editing team cuts back to when we first recorded on your beautiful balcony in a beautiful setting. But unfortunately, when you quality microphones, they tend to pick up everything around you, which is the importance of having as calm and quiet as you can achieve. And it was just a really windy day, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So unfortunately, no matter what we did, we just couldn't get the quality right for the audio to match up with the beautiful visuals. So thank you again for the second time of giving up your time. It's great to be sat down again with you. And I had the temptation was to look back and listen on our first meeting to refresh on things, but I made a point of not doing that because I thought it'd be quite funny what I remember and what I don't, and when we start talking and I'll be like, that's right, because you did this. So we'll see how that plays out. So you two, so what brought you to Turkey? I remember there was quite a journey, working away, living in different places for various reasons. So let's go straight into that.
Can you start?
Yeah, do you want me to start? We first came to Turkey in 2005 on holiday. First experience for myself. My wife had been here previously. We thoroughly enjoyed it, and as much as that within 2 or 3 months of being here, we bought our first apartment. We then had holidays here between 2005 and 2009. 2010. We bought a villa, moved up from the apartment to a villa out of town, and we lived there between 2010 and 2014. We had children who were popping out, grandchildren at that time, and Nana Mo was keen to get involved with the children. So I was working in Saudi, so it was being silly. She was going to Saudi. Sorry, she was going to Spain and I was going to Saudi. So we actually sold the villa and moved to Spain. That was in 2014. She continued to live there in 2014. I continued to work back and forward until COVID.
Yeah. And did you think at that time that was your Turkish journey over? That was it, done and dusted?
No, I don't think so, because we both of us absolutely adored living here, and we'd made some beautiful Turkish friends and met obviously expats along the way, but the lifestyle was always great. But the hankering to go and be with my girls while they were having babies, and that superseded. So it became time was right. They're all at school, their journeys have all settled, and so it's about us now. And Turkey has always been, and even when we were in Spain, we still came to Turkey on holiday.
Ah, is that right?
Yes.
The final decision maker was partially due to COVID. Mo was in Spain with the grandchildren, and I was back in the UK working at this time. I had travelled over here in late February, early March of 2020. And then on the 23rd of March, UK got locked down. And I was due to fly back over here that weekend and didn't.
That's Spain, not here. Just sorry to correct you.
Too many places.
No, you've been absolutely nailing it so far. So don't let that one knock you off guard. You've been doing really well.
I was then in the UK for 16 weeks, isolated in my house, and Mo was in Spain, isolated in her house. We had breakfast lunch, dinner, via Skype. Now that made a terrible mess of my computer. It's never been so clean. Every day wiping it down. But I finally managed to get across on the week of her birthday, which is the last week in July.
And this was 2020?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the day after her birthday, the British government announced they were putting it in the red list. So I get out of Spain, back to the UK. We came over here, which was autumn last year, and we did a recce of where we wanted to be, what we were going to be doing, etc., etc. And we also made the decision jointly, just so my wife agrees that she helped me make the decision, that I wasn't going to work anymore.
About time you retired after 4 previous attempts.
Only being 21, I found that very hard to take.
I do remember the multiple attempts to retire conversation we had. And what drew you back in each time? I mean, was it more of a financial or a buzz? That's where I was good. My father can relate to that.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand people who maybe work in a bank or working in a local authority or some mundane office job, which is a 9 to 5, same every day. I've been in construction since I left school. Qualified in civil engineering, and since then I've been all over the world. I've had a fantastic time. Every day is a different day. There's never 2 days the same in construction.
It's literally in your blood.
It's coursing through my veins just now. Twitch.
and with that in mind, how has it been? How have you settled into this phase of retirement?
It's pretty good, to be honest, and I think the fact that it's a concentrated one-on-one, there isn't anybody else, so that focuses your mind to a certain degree. We've been over here since the 1st of March.
And that's this year, 2021?
Yeah,
right.
We come over here on the 1st of March this year. We've got all our paperwork in place now, residencies, etc. And we've really been ultra careful about where we go, what we do. We haven't been out eating meals, we cook meat in. Our one extravagance is a boat trip once a week, which is out in the open air, obviously, and the swimming in the sea. We really don't go out at nights to bars, pubs, etc. So it's focused us on each other. And that, I think, has made a big difference of being in another environment where she would have the grandchildren or I would have something else to do, and then you think, work. But no, it's a year now I haven't worked.
Actually, my
P45 is dated August 2020.
Are the edges like roughly fading away now?
Ron, I felt, whether struggles is the right word, but to adapt to the change of not setting off going to work and his routines, etc. So from August last year through to end of January, beginning of this year, his momentum and his psyche seemed to be lower, and we'd agreed if he managed to do that long without hankering going back to work, he could strive to do the next bit. And this last 6 months since we've been here in Turkey, the lifestyle, as Ron's explained, we've been careful, but the lifestyle and him learning to relax, learning just to sit back and nothing's a rush.
I must get some tips, because I can relate to that, being a thing, and it's
you need to wait till you're 21.
Yeah.
But I think, for Ron, every day there is an agenda, and it's for him to culturally learn that tomorrow's another day, instead of don't put off till tomorrow what you can do today. So it's reversed. And whereas I've had plenty of years to have got that into my system and a culture that if I don't want to go out anywhere today, I don't. And just relax. So he's learnt, and I'm really pleased with that.
That sounds wonderful, and it sounds like you've really played a part in that, in supporting and being.
Of course he has.
Yeah.
I mean, I wore a watch today, only to tell me what time to come here. Otherwise, I sometimes don't even know what day of the week it is.
That's
because they're all the same. There is no difference between a Saturday and a Monday.
Yes.
Well, there is. Football's on a Saturday night. There wasn't. When the football was off, there wasn't any difference between Saturday and Monday.
And, I mean, let's explore that a little bit on the beauty of that, that there's a uniqueness to that, because under normal life back in the UK, you know, people live for the weekend. You know, they have such a strict regime, routine, whether it's with kids or work or other commitments. So to experience that kind of, I mean, how would you expect that kind of just mashup of time and existence and enjoying that? But also on the flip side, some would say, well, there's also a benefit to having a purpose, a routine, and a reason to get.
Absolutely.
And so, I'm curious, where do you guys fall in?
And I will explain the purpose of routine is for your mental health, okay? And we do within ourselves in our home. If beds aren't made, I would be cringing because I haven't completed what I need to do. And equally, Ron...
If the bin doesn't get put out, I get slapped. Because that's what I need to do.
But he also lives by meal times, and this is the hardest thing for Ron, is time. Because he had breakfast, lunch, working and routine, in Turkey you don't have to eat at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock. Relax. Eat when you're ready. And he's still governed by that. So it's slowly. You are?
No, I will say that. I'm not governed by eating times. What is eating patterns.
Yeah.
I'm a believer in having 4-hour intervals between food.
Yeah.
So if I have my breakfast at 6 in the morning, I'm looking for something to eat at 10 o'clock. If I don't have breakfast at 10 o'clock, I'm not eating anything till 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I believe that 4-hour pattern. And I actually feel that one of the benefits I've found through what we're doing now and not working and all the rest of it is that we tend to eat, not at Turkish times, but still at British times. We tend to have our evening meal 6-7 o'clock, and certainly not after 8 o'clock.
Which is a little bit earlier than people do.
Certainly in the med,
yes. But I'm also a believer that time then, when I stop eating and then I don't start eating again till maybe 8 o'clock in the morning, that's given me a full 12 hours without food.
And your system
and my system is using up the fat in my body. It might not look it, but it's using up the fat in my body.
For our listening viewers out there, is the body of an Adonis. That's wrong.
Who?
Madonna. No.
Is that not a type of brush you use on the floor?
I thought so.
I think there is as well in time factor and adjustments, not only with eating. British culture is, if you say you're going to do something at a particular time, you should be on time.
Yeah,
whereas Turkish culture is, I'm nearly there.
Is this? Are we talking about Turkish time now?
Yes.
So do you want to? I'll put a hand up. What's the best way to describe that term over here? Because you do hear it. Yeah, flexible time. So Turkish time is flexible time, right?
Yeah, I think, where you make an agreement to meet at, say, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and you automatically have it in your head now, it'll be about 10 to 4. All right? Because they don't see the rush. They don't necessarily adopt that I will be on time, because if an event happens and they need to deal with something, they don't generally excuse themselves and say I'm going to be late. They'll just turn up at whatever time, and then but we had to do. So that's something that I have culturally learned, because Spanish can be a little bit like that.
I was going to say, and with you living in Spain and experiencing that, what are the similarities?
It is very similar.
Because there's a siesta,
yes.
the famous siesta at play where people take that afternoon nap, and a lot of businesses will kind of close for that middle of the day.
So that has given me the tools to adapt easily, because I've lived in that environment. But where Ron was working away in different countries, and when he was back in the UK, he was back on UK time. So his adjustment is slowly coming back, you know. So he's getting there, but he's not. He would have got disgruntled or annoyed, particularly if people were an hour late, you know. And he is now well, we expect that. So you can see the retirement and the relaxation as given well, you know.
As he nods off.
And it's not the time, is it not?
I think, you know, he's always worked professionally, and that shows.
And you've said that it's that the camaraderie, right? The buzz, the banter that you have in a work environment that you can't undervalue. My father was exactly the same, that he missed it, and he retired I think 3 times, so he's not quite where you're at the moment, but he's not far off, and you know, he misses that, and although it tires him out, he does enjoy that camaraderie, that togetherness,
with sociability as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. And what's really interesting is to hear that, because you know, I've spoken with people on the podcast who literally were looking forward to the time they hit 60 and retired. And my mate Harry, and he worked for the ambulance, and he knew that he was going to retire as soon as he hit 60. And I think he said he could have worked, say, 2 more months, and it would have made a chunk of an impact on his pension, say. But his mindset was 60, retiring, they're moving out, they had a place here, and they just seemed to fully be ready for it, got here, you know, embraced it, and so there are people who experience that or look forward to that and feel it, experience it, or maybe surprised that what it's like living here. Whereas yourself, it's really interesting to hear that, you know, it is a journey. It takes some time to adjust, because it is very different living somewhere like this, and likewise it's not every day is a holiday. We live in a holiday area, a holiday town, a holiday resort. But every day can't be a holiday in certain ways, right? Because it's not sustainable.
Well, we're not tourists anymore.
That's a very important thing. We were here for 3 months last year. Just 3 months, similar time last year. That was when we were really gearing up. We're going to go there. We came here from August through to October, and we were out. Even there was COVID and all the things. We were out. We go to the clubs at night. Not dancing the night away as such. We did that in 2005. But we had then to look seriously at how we were going to live when we came here, live full time, because that was a holiday environment for 3 months. Not a problem for 3 months.
Yeah.
You cannot live like that all the time. So I think we've done very well. Mo's done a great job doing the housekeeping, shall we say, and keeping things and doing things properly. And we've now, after 3 months, first 3 months were hassle, because it's all about getting papers, getting this signed, getting that signed, and at the same time we're selling a property in the UK, so there was a whole load of things going on for that first 3 months.
And how was that process? Was it something you were realistic about, and it was just it was something that had to be done, and you found it pretty straightforward? It was just a matter of time.
We were extremely lucky.
We knew about it from the point of view. We had residency when we were here before. Mm-hmm. We had residency from 2010 to 2014. And at that time you had to go to Iden to get it.
Yeah.
And that was a holiday, shall I say. You can edit that if you wish. This time, with the help of Ian and Julia, it has been remarkably far easier than what it was. Okay, everything's in here, immigration's here, blah, blah, blah. But just having that person to go to and say, what do I do next? What do I do next? Where do I go there? Come on, I'll take you.
It's not what you know, it's who you know, right?
Exactly so. Exactly so.
And for anyone that wants to make the journey, I would support the theory that find somebody, and it may cost you a small fee. However, it will lessen your trauma, your anxiety, the stress level of not understanding maybe the Turkish and filling in forms. and having somebody there by your side to take you through the process is absolutely worth doing it that way.
They've come on a lot now with their electronic stuff, the Nisbet and Devlet, where once you're in the system, once you've got your Kimlick, you put that in, it's all there.
Kimlick being your residency.
Kimlick's your little card where your number starts 99, and once you've got that, then you can go into the Nisbet and Devlet, I think they are. One's health and one's just general. Once you're on that, everything's there.
Yeah.
It's, your whole life's there. If you're like in front of you, you've got the doctors, it's there.
and that is something that where I've spoken to people on the podcast is that it just seems a lot more easier now to, yes, we've got a, you could say with Facebook groups and over time when you get to know people, it's easier to, with processes, transactions, official legislation that needs to be done. How is that different now compared to what was it like before? Because I've even heard that offices that you may have to go to Iden to are now in Didim, Altingham, so we've got that accessible. Have
the accessibility will half the stress level, because going to Iden and then having to return 10 days later, etc., you need a translator to go with you and all that. And I would say using Facebook isn't necessarily the right way to go, because it's an opinion.
Yeah.
Okay? And some people's opinion, they find it easy, and others will exaggerate the stress that they come under. Not necessarily they haven't had stress, but exasperate. And I think, as I said earlier, finding someone with a professional way, or if you have a Turkish speaking friend that can translate immediately. But as to like Ayan and Julia, Ayan take you to a particular building and introduce you and so on, and it just flows. And I would reaffirm that. Have somebody by your side, and then everything will feel smoother, calmer, and your way forward is relaxed.
You still need a high degree of patience.
You do, because
you need a high degree of patience, because it is a, inshallah, enterprise.
And again, that's some mindset and getting used to. And I spoke before on episodes about immersing ourselves into a culture, into our new way of living, a new area that we find our lives being present in. And it's funny you mentioned Ayhan, because we're filming today at Family Door Restaurant, and my mate Hakan owns the place. And it was Ayhan. I met up with Ayhan, and he got me on board with the city's football team, the veterans football team.
Wow.
And Ayhan and Hakan find themselves being my translator, which has been really interesting, because of course, being the only non-Turkish player, and I don't speak the language. I know a few words, but I don't speak the language. So, and that's been made aware. That's been like, what are you doing? Which I think is healthy pressure,
yes.
But also fitting not only a newcomer but a foreigner fitting into a sports team.
Wow.
And it's been funny. Some colourful phrases that have been used, and I've looked at Hakan and Ayhan to translate, and that's been a wonderful experience himself. And yes, Ayhan has been awesome, as has Hakan.
Yes.
Getting me into that environment, and there's no better way to learn a language as well. Being in my opinion, being in a sports team and learning through that. So, but if we talk about sense of community, I'm kind of talking about I'm immersing myself into a sports team locally, amongst other things, and how is that sense of community? How has that worked with you guys? Where you live. I mean, you're past Mavishare, right?
Yes.
You're close to Mavishare, a little bit out of
Past
town.
the market.
And your city, your complex,
Green Paradise.
and it is spectacular. It's like picture perfect. Your gardener needs a medal, because that is beautiful.
It is awesome. Not only is the city immaculate, it's it's a heaven to live in because of the trees and the plants that are growing. And then on one side you've got countryside view, and from our top balcony we have Samos.
Which you had a Greek island over there.
Yeah. So beautiful. We have an absolute awesome location, and we're really happy to be there.
Yeah.
It's quiet because we're slightly out of town, but we have walking distance to, we can even walk to Mavisha Market. It's probably about 5,000 steps on my watch, which is healthy.
And that's to the market?
To the market.
And how long will that take you on average?
Half an hour.
Yeah.
And we can go either roadside or beachside to walk to it.
I've done that run on many times on the beach, from Mavisha itself and back, and the big hotel there. What's the big
Taran.
Taran, yeah.
Taran. It's a beach club, it's a Turkish club, holiday place.
But the location, we're more than happy to be in that environment because our dream was obviously to embrace Turkish life, culture. We realise that we're not tourists anymore as such, and we want to live a normal lifestyle. So during holiday mode, you go out most nights, you're meeting up with maybe expats and you're doing quizzes and so on. So your liver gets hammered for a short period of time. That's by choice. But now we want to live a comfortable lifestyle, do what we want when we want, but without feeling we have to be socialising all the time. We're quite comfortable with our own company.
Yeah.
So, and the environment helps that because it is so calm. And then we come into town maybe once a week and do the things we need to do, pay your bills, etc., etc. And we enjoy to stop for a coffee at Gigi's.
Yeah.
You know, we do that, but it's only COVID just this year that we decided we didn't want to go to restaurants every night.
Yeah. Just to be be sensible.
But
we've got vaccinations here.
Yeah.
We've both been vaccinated twice, so we've got that cover, if you like. But I still think we've got to get back to work. We've got to risk assess what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, absolutely.
And we've no reaction to things. It's the Pfizer BioNTech we've had. We went to Soapy Hospital for it. The process of getting it was simple. Again, it's all done through the electronic website. It tells you this is the date you're going, that's the day you come back, then when you get the day after it, they confirm that you've been there, and then after you've two, you get a little certificate.
and when we're talking about community, what's the community like around where you live? And what's the mix? Are the Turkish families that purely holiday, are the Turkish families that live there year round, and other nationalities that live on site?
Yeah.
Well, Green Paradise was built for Belgians.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
Yes, around about 2009, 2010. So initially, almost 100% of it would have been Belgians who bought for holidays. Gradually, 10, 11, 12 years later, we've now got, I would say, about 10 resident Turkish families who have bought into the Green Paradise. We would be the only British people there. Over the last couple of months of summer, with school holidays and what have you, I would say the population, there are 84 units there, so I'm saying there's maybe 12 for 6 months of the year. There are teachers from Izmir, from Milas, from places who then come and spend the summer there. And this week they've all started to disappear.
Yes.
Because the school's gone back. And the weekend there was busy, but you could see people parking their cars and stuff disappearing off people's balconies. And now you look out and go, oh, it's very quiet again, isn't it?
Yeah, there's about a week, isn't there, where it changes. And we're recording this, what are we now, the 3rd or 4th?
This is the 3rd.
3rd of September?
No, it's the 2nd.
2nd, it is the 2nd.
Apologies.
2nd of September, so this is the period of time where, people do go back, tourists leave, schools start up again. And it is noticeable, isn't it? It is a noticeable.
But you asked about the integration. we are surrounded predominantly by Turkish. The Belgians are there, etc. But some come from Germany, some come Turkish German, some come from Belgium, some come from maybe Holland or whatever. But there is an integration. Now, the Turkish families that are immediately round us, okay, they all acknowledge us. They go out of their way to try and say hello in English, but we say "Günaydın." So there is that little bit of acknowledgement between the two. We don't socialise with them. Again, that's the biggest part is COVID. Okay, that we've retained our own comfort.
We don't drink raki.
No, we don't drink raki. But no, we see them and they're all enjoying. They have their chai, they have their barbecues or whatever. But not one of them walks past without acknowledging. And even where we're up high, if we're on our terrace, they raise their arms to wave and acknowledge you. And I think that's
something about that,
nice.
isn't it? It's those little power-ups on your day.
Yes.
And I used to, my favourite country is Thailand. I've been going since 2003, and I think overall probably spent a year there, various trips and whatnot. And the thing that stood out for me was that on a daily basis, you would acknowledge and be acknowledged by 8 to 12 strangers, whether it's at traffic lights or just walking around. And I thought that was unique. And it wasn't until I moved out here and I really kind of settled in, and I would be on my runs. I'd go jogging every day, and and it was, I guess, maybe more frame of mind. I would be acknowledging people, and again, everybody would do the same. And that's when the kind of penny dropped. Is it the place or is it the person? And it's like what you're putting out there.
What you're putting out.
I think Britain's the one where you walk down the street and nobody speaks to you.
And here's the thing, Ron. Is there that north-south divide as well? They say that the further north you go, the more friendly that people are.
I think I've worked in London on a couple of occasions, and I've stayed in apartments and what have you, the office that I've worked in. I would go out for a walk in the evening, nobody would look at you twice.
Right.
I would go into a restaurant, 90% of the other people in the restaurant weren't even British speaking.
Right.
And that's London. There is just no feeling of togetherness or acknowledgement. You walk down the street in Glasgow or Swansea.
Well, I was going to say, so wait, because we talk about north-south divide. That is a very northern accent, isn't it?
Take Wales out of the equation, because they should really be up beside Scotland.
Yeah.
And just leave England on its own hill, okay? When I went down to Swansea before I met Mo, and again working down there, going to a bar on a Saturday night, and have a pint. Oh, you're from Scotland then? Aye, and the guy starts. You're immediately engaged in a chat with people, and at 10, 11 o'clock, hey, we're going along to a club along the road. Do you want to come with us? And that was reality. And if you did the same in Glasgow or anywhere, maybe not Edinburgh, that's a bit stuff here. Sorry to anybody from Edinburgh, you can edit that.
Other cities are available.
Yes, correct.
What's your thoughts on? So I remember going to New Zealand in 2006, which when you think of that is a chunk of time ago.
That's 50 years ago.
Yeah, and I remember them saying then that, and it felt that the people who had moved there said it was like England or the UK was 30 years before. Where there's a bit more sense of community.
Yes.
And what's your guys' thoughts on the UK years ago? Do you think it's over time it's lost? It's slowly lost a sense of community, and if so, how is that different here? How does that look here?
Okay, so in one way of putting it, the Turkish families are a united community because they look after the elderly and other relatives. So their locality tends to be quite a nucleus, okay? And 30, 40, 50 years ago in the UK, and especially in Wales, it was exactly the same. Your auntie lived in the street, your grandma lived in the street, etc. And you knew who lived in every single house. And that was doorstep.
And were those the days where if you were a child and you put a foot out of line and somebody would let you know about it? right?
You're not allowed to do that now.
No, but I mean, even your neighbour would tell you off.
That's right.
Okay.
Somebody would be looking out for you,
yes,
in the good ways, in the good times and the bad, right?
I think the Turkish community is very similar.
Okay.
That they protect the young ones. They're very particular how the girls are treated, and that protection. But even more so, they protect their parents, look after their parents. So I think, yes, the relative, you know what it was like years ago in the UK, but I think jobs have made people having to move because coal mines, etc., and industry has changed, and equally people have had to move to find work, and so therefore they've disjointed their families. But even to the point now, you speak to people from the UK, they have family that live maybe in Australia or Canada or New Zealand. So it has become a fraction of what it used to be. And you do get that sense of community here. And I think we're very lucky because the Turkish friends and families that we've met along the way since 2005, we've retained. And the joy in their eyes, in their face when we returned this year was extraordinary. To embrace us, you're back. So I think that was quite heartwarming.
And I wonder how much of that is that, because if you're back, it's a clear sign that you love and respect their country, right? You say so. I wonder. I'm sure there's a great importance on that as well. That you've left and you've come back to the area, and it seems that I had a discussion on one of the other podcasts where there's 15 or so years ago it was more Brits here, whereas now there seems to be more Turkish people visiting as tourists, and also buying as well, buying property here, and I think people have different opinions on that. I think personally, we're now experiencing those who would normally go to, say, Chesme or Marmaris, who are now looking towards Didim Altinkum, because I think that the quality of things to do and places to eat and drink has risen over the past 12-18 months, and so now we are not looking too dissimilar to somewhere like a Chesme or a Marmaris that raised their game years ago. So I think that's been interesting, and people are seeing that they can save money either by just visiting or purchasing as well here, this area. Yes. And we've now seen an increase in cost of purchasing property the last even 6 months. I think
the economy is changing.
The economy is changing, and that'll be interesting to see how that works out over the next 6 to 12 months once the season finishes. The fluctuation in the strength of the pound to the lira, that always plays a part in that.
Can I just say that in the way you're describing people are visiting, it's all nationalities that you see coming here, whether it's Belgians, Dutch, French, Russians, etc. Okay, it's become almost a new hub, and huge difference to go back to 2005. If you walk down the main street, you'd get hassled. Come eat in my restaurant. Come this, that, and the other. And it became a law, hassle-free, and it is a lot more desirable and comfortable not to be hassled. But they make you so welcome. But back in 2005, 6, 7, their economy relied on just tourism. But industries expanding, buying of houses and new villas, etc. So it has evolved. It probably is more desirable for people to come from the east of Turkey to the Aegean because it's beautiful and clean. You can understand why. They're doing that.
Well, we're fans already, so we can vouch for the place. But what do you think people who haven't visited Turkey before? What I'm talking about is preconceived ideas. Where do you think people get it wrong in what they think Turkey might be?
You answer that.
Why? I know that's brought a smile to your face.
Why?
You had a preconceived idea?
Yeah, I possibly did have a preconceived idea. I'm trying to remember back to 2005, and my wife thought I had a preconceived idea about, you know, where the civilization was, if you like, in a country of Turkey at that time, and I just didn't understand where it was at. She'd been here a couple of times. I had views of the sort of open razor barbers cutting your throat and burning your ears and things like that, and I thought, I really don't want to get involved in that, thank you very much. So I may have had a preconceived idea at that time, which has definitely been overcome since then.
Yeah.
People coming here have got to accept the fact that it isn't a European country, and it has got different rules and regulations from a European country. As you're aware, I've lived and worked abroad.
Which was, you mentioned Saudi.
And I've worked in Saudi, and I've also worked in the Emirates.
Right.
So I am well aware of the Muslim majority and the Islamic religion, and I have respect for that in the same way as they have respect for a Christian religion. We actually got married in Dubai, in a Christian church in Dubai. And that was good fun because we then... That was good fun. but
I bet you're thinking you were just ready to give him a punch on the arm there.
No, the fun bit was...
I think you need to say it was the best day of my life.
Of course it was.
There we go.
Yeah.
I'll help you out.
Wasn't it?
I hope so.
The funny bit about it is that when we came here, in order to register with the health authority, because of my age, there wasn't a problem. Over 21's easy, but because my wife's under 21, she then had to be, if you like, sponsored by myself. In order to do that, we had to have our wedding bands translated into Turkish. Now, we had them in Arabic. So there's a certain gentleman sitting in the table not far from us here just now who does a bit of translation from time to time, who got our wedding band, our wedding, what do you call it? Certificate translated from Arabic to Turkish, so that we could put it into SGK, so that we were man and wife, and I was sponsoring her on the SGK system. So that was the interesting thing. But yeah, you cannot go and do things, and unfortunately a lot of the English tourists don't understand these things about temperance, about looking after other people, about respecting other people's religions, etc., etc. You only need to go to some of the football matches in Britain and understand that there is no really religious love for other people, and that's in their own religion. Yeah. So you know it's a very difficult one with religion. That we've come here knowing exactly what there is and there is, what you can and you can't do, and it's certainly less strict than what Dubai was. And a lot less strict than what Saudi was.
Going back, can I just interject there? With you asked about preconceived ideas, okay? Ron, having understood Arabic culture and Muslim faith because he's worked in those countries, he just didn't know where Turkey stood on that situation. In Saudi, that you have to cover as a female, and there is a huge cultural difference for the ladies, okay, not so much the men. And when I was explaining to him, no, Turkey, I can wear a bikini, I can go to the beach, you can go shopping on your own, etc. There was no restrictions, okay, and it's Altinkum is a tourist area. But I'd been to Ludinez, Hirasano, and I said, the people are gorgeous. They're so welcoming and so friendly. And they remember your name. And do you know, just little things. You're not isolated by the fact that you can't speak the language, because they try very hard to communicate with you. And they mimic voices as well so well. It's incredible. So when I said to Ron, look, please, can we go for a holiday and then tell me? Don't say no, put the doors closed. and from day one, he was like, yeah, we'll go back.
And was that first time visiting this area?
2005 here.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And what made you choose this area compared to others? It's a big country. Well, it's a huge country.
There's a long answer to that question. We actually came through a British timeshare club.
Was it one of those where you get your flight and you get looked around?
No, it was. We were a member of a British timeshare club which was based in South Wales. They were called Seasons Holidays. They were based in West Wales, actually, probably, wouldn't it? Near the famous poet. So we had been to some of their resorts in the UK. They also had resorts in Portugal and where else did we go?
Spain.
And Spain. So they got on board with the developer who built Eugene Park, who was a British developer, and they had a tentative deal to put a certain number of these people from the timeshare people in. They didn't take the whole building, they'd maybe take 20 units or something like that. So that's how we came. We came as members of a timeshare club that were buying into this particular thing. And we actually, let's say within 3 months of coming here, we were back and bought a unit in the same place.
Interesting. So that's
so we bought that in. Unfortunately, the timeshare club and the developer fell out. So the timeshare club no longer had an interest in it, and that was just washed hands. That didn't stop us though, because we had bought this unit. So our holidays then were in the unit we bought.
Interesting.
So yeah, that's.
So he was sold twice. Sold on Turkey and sold on buying. So that was the start of our journey.
The big promise at that time, and that's why there's so many properties built here between the early 2000s and 2010-11, was Turkey were going to join the common market of the EU.
Yeah, that was always rumoured that there was a big push to join the EU.
Exactly. So, and this is what, and when it happens, this will happen, and your property will up in price, and there was all this sort of at that time. It's never happened, and it never will happen.
And based on that, do you think now we're in a stronger position as Brits, as expats, living in Turkey, with what's happened with Brexit? Because from what I understand, there's been an opportunity now for Turkey and UK, Great Britain to kind of strengthen their relationships with trade, with agreements. Whereas, times are very different now if you want to go live in Spain or Portugal. And I've had friends that moved there just before Brexit, and how things then unravelled with the changes and legislation. And with that in mind, how easy it is to get a residency here in Turkey. As I think there's still a lot of people that don't realise how easy the process is, how cost effective it is. I mean, let's say, it's around £6,000 to start a process for Australia, I believe. I mean, correct me, those viewers, listeners, correct me if I'm wrong. I saw something recently where they were advertising to get your residency in Thailand, and it's $19,000. Now, here, if it's around for the year, it's £130, £140 mark, and that's your insurance, the process, an agent going through that process with you. For your 2 year, I think it's about £230, £240.
Got to do a year to kick off with, and then you can go.
And then you can get your 2 years.
Then extend.
And then you get your tax number. And did you find that process pretty straightforward?
We still had tax numbers from when we were here before. So we didn't have a problem with the tax number. But because our time was up on our previous Kimlik, then we had to go through the Kimlik process again. But as I said earlier, that when you know someone, it is relatively simple. I'm not saying it's difficult if you don't, but it's easier if you do. It's just, that's
the translation is the biggest thing, and understanding that there is a time scale. It doesn't happen today and you get it tomorrow.
And patience, because you're in and out of this office, and then you go to that office, and then you go back to this office, and then you go to the bank and you take money, you go to the tax office, you pay the tax office, you take the receipt, you go back to that office, hand it over. There's a lot of that toing and froing, and you think, they've got all this Nisbet, Devlet, blah blah blah, why can't they just put it all into that instead of having to go and pay money at the bank, the tax office, and then take it back to the immigration office? I'm sure they could, but there again, it's maybe jobs. They're creating jobs for people.
Yeah.
And that's good for the community. There isn't, we touched on industry and all there is, but in this corner there isn't a massive amount of industry. You've got to go down to Milas Bodrum to see that, or go all up. Soki's got a bit with all the cement works and what have you.
Yeah.
And the cotton.
You're out towards Aydın and Izmir, which are very, very busy places. So the people here, I still think the majority of them are involved in farming. And you know, and I'll say this to them, they work their salts off.
Yes.
You would not get a British person to work what they work on the fields, in the trees, in the farming, with the animals. It is unbelievable the hours they put in.
And in the heat, often
and in the heat,
in the season.
I mean, the tractors are on the way. They're on the way out at 6 o'clock at night, and they're probably still out there at 9 o'clock at night. Sorry, at 6 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
I've got a fantastic respect for what they do, and that they exist in pennies. Some of the people that live round about us in locals, you would think, who lives in there? And you see them sitting there happy, having their chai, having their chat, the family's all round together, and they're happy as Larry, and they've got their socks off. If you try to do that with somebody in Britain, they'd look at you and say, you're having a laugh. And that's where Britain's gone wrong as well. You know, go back to the thing you touched on before. They've come away from adversity in Britain. I was born after the Second World War. So the people that lived through the World War and then in the 10 years after the World War still had the stigma of rations and all this and all that. And that was more, most of the family ethic went on into the 60s, and it was still that family ethic and the people who did that. But then when you get into the 70s, you had miners' strikes, and then you had the new bunch of people that were born and brought up who had no idea what it was to live through not having things, and they became people who wanted everything. And as in the miners' strikes, the coal strikes, and then Member of Parliament telling people to go on their bikes, and that was when the whole thing broke up. And we've now got in Britain a complete load of people who think that the world owes them something, that they deserve this, that they throw away things. And I don't know if you listened to the radio yesterday, there was a big Reading festival at the weekend.
Yeah, Leeds Reading.
And apparently the mess of that.
I saw the video, it showed all the tents that they're leaving.
They throw away society. They take the tents and they go, I will just leave that. And the place is a mess. And somebody's got to clean up. Now, okay, somebody come along and say, yeah, we can use them for the refugees. Fine. That's not the point. It's, they buy it, 50 quid, 60 quid for a tent. It's two of them. They get pissed up, the drug, drink and all the rest of it, and they get thrown out on the Sunday night, and they just go out.
Yes.
Can I just correlate what? Sorry, darling. What you're involving in the conversation and making a point is something I would hope anybody listening, watching, would not come to Turkey with a mindset of it's so affordable, which it is, it's so easy, which it is, that I will live my life drinking, and this is not coming to live, this is coming to have an extended holiday.
Yes.
And the throwaway society, because there's a monetary exchange rate between the sterling and the lira, which is so lovely for anyone just now, exchanging their money, and the rate is very good. You think the cost of living is woohoo, we can do, and we can eat steak every night, we can drink a bottle of vodka every night. That's not necessarily where we should be.
Yes.
Okay, we're not setting ourselves as a good example to others, because I think British people that are behaving in this way are alienating themselves from Turkish culture. And the idea of living here is to embrace
and immerse
yourself, integrate, and still have fun. I am not suggesting for any time that people shouldn't go out and have a party, but
balance. We're talking about balance and sustainability.
Exactly.
There have been some horrendous programmes of Brits abroad.
Yes.
You know, we don't need to go back in history that far. You know, whether it's in France and Spain and Portugal and Italy, and it will happen in Greece and it will happen in Turkey and all the rest of it. And it goes back to people not having respect for anything other than the alcohol or whatever that they want to do. Mm-hmm. You know, can be frustrating.
Same happened in Spain.
Absolutely,
it's not unique
it's very true.
to Turkey, but just now the economy and exchange rate between sterling and euro is totally different. This is like a gift here, you know. You have your lira in your hand and you think, oh, that's 100 lira. Oh, that's only a tenner. When you live here, you must think lira, not try and keep quantifying and qualifying what you're spending, and this is so cheap. And my advice would be that if you've got lira in the bank here, you have to think lira.
Thinking lira, yeah, that's true. And I mean, I can relate and be guilty of the fact that I've had to apply more discipline to myself when it comes to. I love eating out, but you do it too often and it doesn't feel like a treat anymore. And I think there's something really important with that. Like I was talking to friends where, you know, if we lived in a Barcelona, Amsterdam or Berlin kind of place that's much more expensive, you know, you would find yourself being more controlled because of that difference of expense, and maybe it'll be a treat once or twice a week.
Absolutely.
Whereas here, it's so cost effective that you're like, I'll go out for lunch or I'll meet up with a friend for dinner. But that can then happen too often and it loses its spark, you know, it loses that kind
Well, that's why I think the difference between if you're coming on holiday, whether it's 2 weeks or a month, you're coming on holiday, thoroughly enjoy, experience every restaurant you can, enjoy the ambience, the nightlife, the daytime, the beautiful scenery, go and do it all. But if you live here 12 months of the year, then you have to, how would you have equated that in the UK or wherever your starting point is? You wouldn't. You would be eating at home, you have a cup of tea, you wouldn't be drinking a beer at 10 o'clock in the morning.
This is very...
I'm trying to stress to people that their health and their bank account will suffer.
It's a very good point, and I know I've got friends that volunteer or actually run, say like the animal shelter charities, Didim Animal Shelter. I've been speaking with Lynn, who runs Helping Hands, and when you speak to those people, you really see. You could say, well, what you're doing, putting all that effort and work in when you should be relaxing and enjoying, but actually it provides such a purpose. And I've mentioned this so many times before. You can't undervalue the importance of needing to go to bed and the reason why you get up in the morning to do something. And that doesn't mean I take my hat off to those people running charities and who are so involved in the animal shelter and other amazing organisations, but that importance of having a purpose. And it's clear, speaking with you two, that you've really got it nailed in terms of sensibility, a balance for each other.
That's boring, isn't it?
You still enjoy life.
I would disagree, because I think I've got huge respect for you, because it's really clear, you know, how you've acclimatised to living here in Turkey, to not working, to supporting each other in that way, to really valuing and appreciating life as it is now. And I think that's something that not everybody kind of realises until it's maybe too late, and then they might leave Turkey because they've not relaxed into this way of lifestyle. You know, it's maybe those people who have treated every day like a holiday, or spent far too much money because everything's so cheap, so they just do stuff more often on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
So I think that's really great insight, and it's been an amazing part of this podcast, learning about you. And as a couple, that's really cool to see, because there'll be people coming out here who are unsure. I speak with people that, you know, it might be that it's a bit imbalanced in terms of one person wants to come out and another doesn't, and that might be because of family, and we've touched on that with your previous situation, and I also experienced that with say, elderly family, those who have elderly parents, but also it's the grandchildren. It seems it's
the grandchildren.
It's the elderly parents and the grandchildren situation that people find themselves either attached or have to feel the need to go back to, or maybe miss it as well. They come out here and they miss that too much.
I miss my girls.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do.
And the grandsons in Scotland, we haven't seen them for nearly 2 years, isn't it? And that's heartbreaking.
Yeah. And they're what, 7 and 3?
Well,
like
yeah, it'll be 3 now in January. But the point of trying to adjust your pocket on that, we would, if the climate wasn't COVID related, okay, we would be able to go and visit, because we're living a lifestyle where we know we can afford to do that trip, and we haven't drunk it all. Right?
Mm-hmm. If it wasn't quarantine.
Yeah, if it wasn't COVID related, absolutely.
The quarantine thing, which is, England are a farce, because their figures are far higher than what Turkish figures are.
But media, Skype, right? Whether it's FaceTime or Messenger, WhatsApp, these are fantastic commodities, and that's how we.
I think that to many that's kept us a bit sane, right? Is
absolutely.
That without that level of connection.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
When we were 16,
16
weeks without Skype would have been disaster for us. Fretting, Ron didn't celebrate, or did, whichever way you went, on his own, his 70th birthday. That broke my heart, because during the during that 16 weeks, he was isolated in Wales and I was in Spain, and we couldn't do anything about it. So we arranged our day that we had the breakfast and the open cards, etc. And lunchtime we had a little tapas lunch. He had a shopping list to go and buy to match mine. Okay, and we had exactly on the plate, and we had bubbles, kava.
She was teaching me how to cook over Skype.
And then we had an evening meal, and he had to learn how to cook the meal. Okay, so that when we ate our meal on Skype, side by side, we were eating the same meal. So I tried to make it as normal.
Yeah.
Without it wasn't normal, but I mean, to make some sense of it, because it was heartbreaking to not even any of my family in Wales could go and wish him happy birthday.
Well, I speak with, it's almost seemed on a daily basis, especially when we were in the thick of it in 2020, and everybody's had their own challenges, and that's so varied, whether that's employment or family separation, amongst many things. But you touched there on food, and we've got to wrap up. There's so many things I haven't even. I've
we
had
could be here at 5 o'clock.
I know we could be. We could certainly be here and just chop it up into hourly episodes. But we're going to finish on food. We love talking about the weather and food, right, as Brits. And so where would be your kind of favourite places to eat in the area? And on all the flip side as well, what's your favourite Turkish dish?
Right, my favourite Turkish dish, not only to eat from a Turkish person making, but I also can do it myself. Okay, is aubergine, stuffed aubergine.
Oh, they are good.
So, I mean, I've learned how to make Turkish food, and it's quite adaptable. And we both appreciate the culture and the cuisine. The best restaurant to eat is Family Door.
As we find ourselves sat down here, that's a good
answer.
That's a good answer. Yeah, it's a good one.
Seriously,
other restaurants are available, of course.
Of course.
Have you done the tomahawk here? The tomahawk steak.
No, we were at the table, and our Turkish friends had the tomahawk. So it was brought to the table. It's just too big for me.
That's maybe one to
massive.
Share. It is one to share.
It is a sharing thing, but the menu in all the restaurants are to die for. I like the vegetarian side of things. I like the healthy foods, but to go out and have a nice steak, traditional, as in what you have in your mindset, but I cook at home, so
You've got that balance as well. That's it.
Yeah, I do Spanish style.
My favourite restaurant is Chez Mo.
Chez Mo?
Chez Mo, yeah.
I don't know that one.
Yeah.
It's my house.
I sensed there was something going on. I wasn't.
Yeah, he has to say that.
No, that's. I like that. That's an extra tick in the box there. On that is fantastic.
No, we're comfortable with our own company.
And you know, and that's great. That really shines through. And when I was talking about how you've adjusted here, it's pretty clear. You know, it's very genuine, and the power of these podcasts is authenticity, and I think that's really shone through with you guys. The way you support each other, the way you've immersed yourself, the way you've had sensibility as well with the
sometimes.
It's not to say that
we've been known to stray.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you're boring and sensible.
We're not boring old farts.
I'm not saying you're boring old farts.
We've done many things along the way.
That's good. But what shines through it is that strength between yourselves as a couple, and that's really admirable and inspiring. So I can speak for that, as I'm sure many viewers and listeners would. And I'll be curious what people comment on, because there's been some interesting conversations. We've mentioned Brexit, we've mentioned about not being in the EU, about lifestyle, so it'll be interesting what people's opinions and feedback are. But we are going to have to cut it short. You guys have got an appointment.
Yes. Thank you.
But I'd just like to thank you once again. Apologies for the first time we were on your balcony, and as I said, our editing team, I'm sure, have cut to show that beautiful scenery from last time.
We'll slip some of that in.
We'll slip some of that in. But it's been wonderful, and I will enjoy bumping into you for a cold glass of fizz at some point before.
Thank you. I wish you would.
You're welcome to come to Chez Mo's.
I hope that anybody listening to the podcast has a balanced view. We are not boring. We are sociable people. We're just being sensible.
I think that's a really good way to finish up. And in terms of a title, a balanced view on living in Turkey, that seems to come forward. Makes there.
Sense. Yep.
So thank you so much. You guys are awesome and look so lovely. You are so lovely. It's incredible. So much appreciated, and we will speak soon, I'm sure.
Thank you.
James, thank you.
Take care, guys.
Thank you.